Warning, this review is entirely pointless. It is just the ramblings of a random person on YouTube about a game that is most likely irrelevant at the time of viewing. There is no numerical score at the end, just his dumb opinions. You have been warned.
Hello Internet, this is Zarlin, and welcome to my second pointless review. This one's going to be different than the first one because I'm doing multiple games. All play-your-own music games, to be precise. They must be able to use the music from your media library of your computer. They must be on Steam, because I'm too lazy to go anywhere else to look for my games. And they also have to be under $10, because I don't want to spend a lot of money on this review. Let's get started. First, in no particular order, is Turba. This is a puzzle game that utilizes your own music in order to change the way tiles are spawned and the pace at which tiles are spawned. There are three game modes. There is the mode which starts as a full screen and you simply get as many as you can, and every few beats it'll drop a row from the bottom and add a row to the top. There is the other mode that starts off with the first two rows and will gradually reach the ceiling, and once it reaches the ceiling you get a game over. And there is one that starts at the ceiling of the screen and works its way down, but you will not get a game over if it goes all the way down. Each mode is really just different ways of spawning the blocks, and they will follow the beat of your song, but it really doesn't add anything. And the way the controls work make it quite difficult in order to do what you need to in order to get high scores or stop game overs. You can only select the 4 blocks adjacent to the block that you first select by double clicking. And so in order to get a long string of blocks you have to continuously double click alongside them, and it doesn't feel as responsive or intuitive as just clicking on one color in a large group and them all disappearing. Now I know this kind of makes it so you can select a large group of red or large group of yellow, large group of green, and get large multipliers that way, but I would rather just double click on one yellow and get rid of the entire big glob of yellows instead of having to double click to get 5 yellows, then double click to get more, and just wasting time, it feels like, just getting this one thing of yellow pieces. Another problem I have with the controls is that if you try and double click, as soon as the beat spawns another row, it will click on the one block that you've clicked on and then click on the row above it or below it, depending on which direction the blocks spawn, and once again wasting more time because you have to deselect if it was not the proper color. It just does not feel intuitive to me, and it really turned me off of this game. And other than having the blocks spawn, I don't feel that having your own music really contributes to this game very much. I feel that if they actually just controlled the way blocks spawn in a normal pattern instead of having blocks spawn to the beat of your music, which could be fast or slow depending on the song you're picking, then it could be a lot more enjoyable and you could just listen to your soundtrack over the soundtrack that they would have provided for you. So I'm going to have to give this first game, Turba, a pass for the games that I'm reviewing in this review. Game number 2, and once again no particular order, is going to be Beat Hazard, an asteroid-style shooter, top-down, that you get power-ups and upgrades and special attacks based off of your music, which will affect your own weapon strength, the spawns of enemies, and the bright flashing lights in the background. Now, this was the first use-your-own-music kind of game that I actually heard of, and it was the only game that I knew of for a while. But this kind of suffers from what Turba did. It doesn't exactly feel like the music is affecting the gameplay in any meaningful sense, besides making your gun stronger or weaker, or making the background more or less seizure-inducing. I don't notice any kind of different spawns based on the style of the music or the speed of the music. I mean, if it's a slower section, you obviously have less spawns on the screen, but it doesn't feel exactly like it's very affected by the music that's playing. Just because it's loud and boisterous, there's just more stuff on the screen. And it obviously doesn't feel like it was really designed around the music. It's like, here's a space shooter that you can play with your music in the background and you don't have to turn our sound off. And it's exactly the length of one song, unless you do one of the endless modes or the boss rush mode, which will keep going until you die. The perks and upgrades are nice, but it doesn't feel like they're exactly work well with the whole music theme. It feels like a space shooter that happens to be able to use your music. That's all I can really say about it. It's not a bad game, it just doesn't feel like it exactly follows the theme that it was promised on the tin. It just doesn't feel like it's completely affected by your music. It just feels like a space shooter, and it happens to be able to use your music. Now, there is a reason for this next one to be where it is. This is Symphony, and it's a top-down shooter based around your music, similar to how Beat Hazard is, the last thing I just put in this review. And I personally feel it's a lot better and feels a lot more like it works with the music than just having it as an extra feature to put on the front of the box. Now, the big thing that separates Symphony from Beat Hazard and all the other games is this actually has a story that you can play through. It's not a very complex story, it's just some evil entity has gotten into your music library and turned the composers against you, and feeding off of their inspiration. So you must defeat them and free your music from this evil entity. It's not much of a story, but it works well, and it shows that they're actually more focused on the whole use your own music than, say, Beat Hazard felt like it did. As for the gameplay, it's a top-down shooter, as I said before, which makes it similar to Beat Hazard, but you don't get the entire screen, and the sections of the screen that are blocked off to you, you can see silhouettes of the enemies about to spawn, and they will spawn exactly at the point where a beat will hit. They actually spawn with the beat, and it makes it feel like they're actually with the beat of the music and following the music. If the music gets way more intense, the screen will turn red and the game becomes more intense because it's harder to see projectiles with that red background. I believe the reason I like this game right now at the time of this recording more than Beat Hazard, even though when I got Beat Hazard I loved it, is because it focuses more around the fact that it's using your music. It's not just in the background. Stuff actually feels like and actually shows that it's spawning with the beat. And it doesn't just affect your weaponry, although some weaponry is affected, like one of the weapons I like to call the bass cannon. If you have a harder driving bass, it'll do more AoE damage. The harder your beat is, the more damage it'll do. Not all the weapons are that way. A lot of the weapons are just regular projectiles, and it's not affected by how loud or soft your music is. I just feel like it follows the theme of use your own music a lot better than Beat Hazard does, which is why I would suggest this game over Beat Hazard. Beat Hazard is a good game, I just think this one is better. Game number 4 on this list, Rhythm Zone. Now, this is obviously a Guitar Hero clone. You can see it from the gameplay right here. It's got star power. It's a Guitar Hero clone with 4 buttons. The big problem with this is since it uses your music, the way it analyzes your music, it just follows the beat or the rhythm. And so if you get a song with a lot of cool guitar solos and all that, don't plan on playing it as if you were playing Guitar Hero and shredding through those awesome solos. You're just going to be following the beat. And another big thing is the harder difficulties focus more on just throwing random chords that are extremely hard to follow instead of adding cool solos, since it can't detect that as well. So, medium difficulty feels like the best difficulty. It throws some chords at you, but they kind of feel like they're in the right place instead of having lots of random hand-crunching chords all over the song that make it completely impossible for you to play the first time or even play at all. I used to play a lot of Guitar Hero, but on the harder difficulties, it's near impossible for me to even play since they have those weird chords in weird patterns. Yes, it follows the beat, but I can't switch chords that fast on these higher difficulties. It does what it's supposed to do well on medium difficulty, and I don't feel the need for those harder difficulties to be that insanely hard. Overall, it serves its purpose. I use it every now and again to just kind of warm my hand up to play other games, but it's a Guitar Hero clone and a pretty poor one at that. P.S. Out of all the other games in this series, this is the one I had the most problems with trying to find my own music and play it. The other ones either have a browser that you can go into your own computer files and use it that way, but this one, you have to go through their own menu system. There's no quick search. You have to scroll down. You can't just type in what you want and it'll find it. You can't even search by artist until you have already found the song and had it analyze the song so it can make the gameplay out of it. It's just a clunky menu system, and this is the only one that I've had this problem with. More kind of deterrent to get you away from this game, I feel. Which is sad, because it's enjoyable at parts. The fifth and last game of this series is Audiosurf. If you know about play your own music games, you probably know about this. It's a game where you play as a little spaceship kind of thing. You collect blocks, either of the same color or of the non-gray color, depending on the game type you're playing. And you go down this track trying to get the highest score you possibly can, and go on the online leaderboards and show off your EPing. Now, as I said, the track goes along with your music. If the music is building up to a higher point, the track will go upwards. If it's got really intense and it's going really fast and, you know, going through its intense parts, it'll be going down, and your little spaceship thingy will be going faster, and it really goes along with the music that you're playing. It's a lot like Symphony. It actually feels like it's playing with your music. It goes along really well with your music, and it feels extremely well polished. If you're going to pick up any of these games out of this selection of 5, pick up Symphony or Audiosurf. Those are my two that I really suggest you should get. And once again, they are all on Steam. They are all under $10, extremely cheap, and those two I find are the best out of these 5. And these are the 5 that I found while on Steam. It's extremely fun and goes extremely well with your music. Those two games get Zarlin's pretty good stamp of approval. Thank you for watching, and good night.